which means you practice coming to the heart on a daily basis so that whenever you choose to be the one in the room that has their heart open, you do it. You can do it in a moment because you have practiced. You can do it when things are bad. You can do things are good because you have just practiced doing it. If you become that person in your home, in your community outside of here, in this place, you become what we just told the children. You are the light of the world. You have connected us again, brought us back. Whereas what Tim was singing, that James Taylor song, we are in a brother and sisterhood. And what has made the world more difficult is the forgetting of that. So what would make it better would be a remembering of that. And what better way to do it than to come to your heart and be able to be there in that state. Today we're going to talk about a relatively complex thing because it blends together several ideas at once. Essentially what we're going to talk about is this idea of setting intentions, how to set intentions, but also how to be a community. And I want to start with what we did as a meditation. Today, as we did a meditation in which we focused on the heart, we basically breathed into the heart, which is really just a way of activating it. If that doesn't work for you, if you're practicing some other time, there are other ways of doing it, which is to remember someone you love, and to bring that to the fore so that you develop a sense of active love in your heart, and then you begin to radiate out there. And this process of radiating out from the heart is what I think has helped keep this community together for almost 40 years now. And part of the reason we do it here on a weekly basis is because at the level of the heart, in my opinion, the energy goes out horizontally. The energy goes out horizontally and touches this way. Now, in some meditations you can do, you essentially are working to ascend, to go to higher states of awareness, to drop into the upper stages of the chakra system. But in the heart, which is halfway between the crown and the root, in the heart, what you're in a place of unification, of joining all of it. So internally, in the chakra system, you're joining the lower with the upper in the heart. In a community, you're joining heart to heart. And this experience of expanding the heart and joining with the community allows you to feel as though you belong. So many people think a community in some ways is something that you come into and it's there and it was created, especially like a church. You come in and it's created and it's a set thing. Actually, it's an incredibly dynamic thing. And it's dependent on each member of that community to add what they can to that. And one of the silent but powerful ways to add to this community or anyone you're in is to open your heart and send out love. And you will change people. You will change the way they feel when you do that. I'd give this very mundane example of this. I used to teach whitewater rolling in a pool on Thursday nights. And the biggest difficulty in learning how to roll a kayak in a 360, you go underwater and come up the other side, is you have to relax. If you're afraid, it's hard to relax. And so the method I would use to get people to relax was I would send them love while I was standing up to my waist in water and they were standing in the kayak, and they would never know what was happening, but I always, and I mean for years, always got someone to roll up. And most people had an intermittent experience of doing that. Your ability to change a room can happen like that. When you move into your heart, you move into a room and you come into this place where now you begin to be the vibratory tuning fork to which they can come into. And one of the things I think we are collectively experiencing is that the vibration so often that we hear on the news or that we see on the road or we feel is that it isn't in the heart. It's protected. It's I, in the small sense, I oriented. And there's not a place that you feel love and acceptance. Now, I'm not saying that's 100%. I'm just saying too much of the time it's like that. There are many times you move about and you feel like, oh, this is pretty sweet. This is how it is. Our hearts are open here. So one of the things I'd like us as a collective to do is two things, actually. One is to be able to come to the heart at will, which means practice, which means you practice coming to the heart on a daily basis so that whenever you choose to be the one in the room that has their heart open, you do it. You can do it in a moment because you have practiced. You can do it when things are bad. You can do things are good because you have just practiced doing it. If you become that person in your home, in your community outside of here, in this place, you become what we just told the children. You are the light of the world. You have connected us again, brought us back. For as what Tim was singing, that James Taylor song, you know, we are in a brother and sisterhood. And what has made the world more difficult is the forgetting of that. So what would make it better would be a remembering of that. And what better way to do it than to come to your heart and be able to be there in that state. The second thing, and this is parallel, but comes more from the mind, I think, the more ways I sense it, is which is to find a way, some way that you can connect with your soul or with your deeper self, your higher being, the self with a capital S. Find a way to come back to that, and to come back to it often enough that you can go there at will, and maybe it becomes your generalized state of being, that you are not the little I, this little avatar that's you can see, but you become the soul that is behind it, the presence of the divine particularized. You become that. And now one of the things about that is that's also not only what might feel like a vertical experience, it's also a horizontal experience. Because what's horizontal about it is that the soul that is you is the part that is completely connected with all souls, the soul with the presence. When you are the presence with a capital P, you are in the presence. We often substitute the presence for a word for God. When you are in the presence, you have found the God you are looking for. And it turns out there are many, many paths, but they tend to reverse your attention and bring you back home. And it is through the interior looking of yourself you find what you are looking for, which has always been looking. It has always been there. Master Eckhart said, you know, the eyes I see God with are God's eyes. It's a paradox. I was talking with Michael. Mike has been doing a class on Anjali and his sutras. And as we finished the class, Michael said, how do you think it went? I said, I thought it went really well. People were attentive and they're on it. You can feel that in the room they're on it because they want to have the direct experience. They want to have something that they can go, I got it. And I said, you know what the problem is that they can't see the target. Because it's almost like you can't see your own eyeballs. You know? And so you're shooting for something that is already who you are. It's not to go somewhere, it's to come back, return to be, to practice the beingness. And I'm so happy that this is becoming part of the culture here, that we're beginning to talk about this, beginning to develop practices, actually practicing coming home to who you are. And if you come home to who you are, I think this wisdom begins to inform your life such that your life begins to find a way to flow, to move in coordination with all that is that we have used to call God. I've been reading a book on intention. The book on intentions by Wayne Dyer, and basically I'm going, why is he using this word intention? And for me, the translation of intention comes back to Unity's phrase, there's only one presence and one power in my life and in the universe, God, the good, omnipotent. And many people think that means, in the normal traditional way, the good means God is a good guy. He's really a nice person. It means good for people. So I asked a professor at Unity Village about that. And he said, it's not God the good like a normal good person. It's God the evolving, the ongoing expansion, the becoming, the intention, in essence. So God the good is the same as the universal intention of becoming. The universe is becoming something. You are becoming something. An acorn becomes something. It is an expansion of consciousness through expression. And so this God the good and your intention, or intention as Wayne Dyer is using it, are the same, in my opinion. And so when you set an intention, not from the little ego I, from the little I over here, but from this soulful sense of yourself, when it's in alignment with that part of you that is connected to all that is, you set an intention that's in the flow with the expansion, with the expression of consciousness itself. And so there's, to review briefly, open your heart and you contact creation as it is. You touch it. You touch it in a way that you bring home to everyone in that vibration, that they belong, that they are loved, that this is a safe place. I think it's really interesting that our country has become, I was talking with some people from England last night, and he was saying, you know, the first time I came to America, and I guess it was in New York, he comes to New York, and he goes, I was in Central Park, and I saw a policeman on a horse with a gun. And in England, you know, they don't carry guns. The police don't carry guns because the world is not armed to the teeth. And I think, you know, our fascination with the ability to aggressively defend ourselves is directly equivalent to the same thing as how often do we feel safe. And we have established a very competitive world in America where you could lose everything just by going to the hospital. It can be quite harsh here. And so fear, I think there's a state of fear in America that you may not meet in every world, or every country around the world. And I used to travel the world, and people go, aren't you afraid? It's like, no, it's actually safer out here than it is at home. So one of the correctives is this very intentional use of your heart. And I want to come back to Martin Luther King. I don't know if you realize this, that Martin Luther King was the youngest man to receive a Nobel Prize, and he died at 39. Now, his career was quite stellar. But can you imagine being plucked as a young man to lead a national movement, and all the hate and all the hope and all the expectation that was thrown on you, and not to mention Herbert Hoover trying to undermine you at every stroke, every step of the way? Can you imagine being that young guy with the burden of leadership that he had? Impressive. Impressive. And I think what allowed him to do that is the same thing that would allow others to do it. Is first of it was important, extremely important, and he felt it in his gut, and he knew the problem very well. But he had to have something else. And that is, he had to have to believe in something would make a difference, that something was possible. Now, in a world where fear was used to suppress, he had to come up with something else. And he drew upon Gandhi's idea of nonviolent resistance, satyagraha. This idea of satyagraha means holding firmly but politely to the truth. And so, in that world, the powerless have a way of controlling outcomes, not by being powerful, but by being willing to hold on to the truth, to love in the face of hate, to surrender your body to violence if necessary, to go to jail if necessary, to not hold anger or evil toward others, to be able to be the light in the world when the world wants to shut you down. And this method of transforming the world, not through force and not through dominance, but through this ability to tap into that which is universal, was his stroke of genius and his powerful weapon against discrimination. And as a young man, having found that, he was able to commit himself to a path that allowed for transformation in the country without a full-blown set of violence. Years later, I was in South Africa. I happened to be there in Johannesburg on my way to a river trip, and I just remember feeling that town. It was just frightening. The anger was at such an intense level, and it just, you thought it would explode at any moment. And how did they get beyond it? Is somebody like Nelson Mandela said, look, let's not fight, let's unite. What a difference it made that the victor did not come in and declare, I'm taking the spoils now. If we, as citizens of a great country, but one with an enormous number of flaws, and because we're so big and powerful, our flaws are really, it's like a kid with a hammer in a china shop. We're dangerous. And we need to be that light on a hill we claim to be. And we won't get there by being the full expression of our power, but by the full expression of really the highest principles, like Martin Luther King said, that everyone is endowed by the Creator with certain inalienable rights, both in this country and outside this country. with certain inalienable rights, among them life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And we have done a pretty good job of the last 50, 75 years of saying, well, that might be true for us, but it's not true for everybody. And we got good at that because I think we said that from the beginning of the foundation of the country. We said, well, it's for some people, not for everybody. And what that march with 250,000 people on Washington in '63 said was, no, we came to cash the check. You wrote it to us in the Declaration of Independence. It's for everybody. And I think when we as a country can hear that and go, yeah, okay, well, that's fair. We'll do that. We'll take a giant step as a country. And when we as a community hear, I don't think we're dealing with the same issue, right? I think we do acknowledge the Christ in each person, that the presence of God is actually present in each one of the chairs here as the individual and collectively as a whole. I think we do that. But if we could vibrate like that wherever we go, we really could, because of the practices of coming to the heart and also for the realization of who you are, that you're a soul, not a body, that if we could stay in that state enough when we're out in the world, we become the very thing the world is looking for. A safe person to be with, a place of love and acceptance, a place where we recognize the dignity of every person. We could be a shining example, individually and collectively. And I think when it comes back to intention, when it comes back to using God, the good, the expression of consciousness out into the world, let this be our intention. That we not just get what we need, but that we become the light. And all things will be added unto us, I'm sure. The practice of being the light, in my opinion, in very simple ways of saying it, is you open your heart and you keep it open. And you remember who you are as the soul and not the body. That's how you become the light. And then you do what you do. And as you do it, you'll be doing it in that light, not in doing phase, but in being phase. So this is my hope, my intent for us, especially in this year in which we know we will hear of wars and rumors of wars, and we'll hear of politics, we'll hear of fires, we'll hear of shootings. You know they're coming. We need to arm ourselves with love and wisdom so that we can continue to be the light we were chosen to be from the beginning of time. Let us pray. Turning to the heart, let us feel into our hearts. You know, sometimes there's sadness in there, or grief, or maybe even shame. But that's the top. If we go deeper into it, there is this wonderful connection that aligns our chakras top to bottom, but also aligns us with the world and with the one we call God. Let us remember that we don't have to be perfect, or old, or wise, or moneyed. We are exactly where we should be. And part of our mission is to be the light. So let us practice. Let us have our hearts open, but let us also awaken And let us practice being the one that is one with the one. And let it be so. Amen.
I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.